This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight.
Everyone at Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight wish you happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and especially Happy New Year's. In 2023, Queer News Tonight did more than 2,000 television stories about the LGBTQ+ community. This is more than the entire rest of the world combined. We're proud of our nonprofit role of providing our community the news, information, and conversation that is so important to our community. We're doing this special Queer News Tonight called 25 of 23. We're going to remind you of the 25 top stories of 2023. Let's hope that 2024 will bring you everything you hope for and the dreams for the LGBTQ+ community will come true. These are the most important stories of the year. Here are the top 25 of 23 for Monday, December 25th. In March, we did a story about camping and specifically Sawmill Campground's mammoth success. After all, it's an uber-red Pasco County sitting on 200 acres with more than 45,000 members, and their next-door neighbor is Florida's uber anti-LGBTQ+ hater, Florida's Commissioner of Agriculture, Wilton Simpson. Despite that, Sawmill became a speeding train of success. Number 25 of 23 is Sawmill Campground becomes America's most successful nonprofit LGBTQ+ co-op.
Sawmill, the premier gay campground in America, which also happens to be clothing optional, is the safest place for many LGBTQ+ community members. It's sort of in the middle of nowhere, about an hour and a half north of Tampa, with a blink and you'll miss it sign at the entrance. It's 1 hour west of Orlando. But behind the inconspicuous gate, the grounds are a gorgeous balance of promiscuity and privacy. There are acres of trails in the woods with a reputation for cruising and plenty of platonic spaces for those who don't partake, with manicured park homes, a pool, 2 bars, and a nightclub called Woody's. Sawmill is a private membership club that has more than 45,000 members. In 1999, Women's Weekend, a tri-annual event, was first launched in Sawmill, and the place was transformed from a place dominated by mostly gay men into a truly co-ed community of lesbians, queer women, trans, and non-binary folk. Most people hear about Sawmill through word of mouth and come for a specific event, like pup, leather, 70s bathhouse, Latin, or women's weekends, before ending up lifelong visitors. At a time when queer and trans people face continued political and personal violence, Sawmill is keeping a feeling of joy intact. Sawmill was founded by a group of gay men and was sold in 2005 to 2 straight men from West Palm Beach. There were significant complaints that they took money from the gay community but did not reinvest. Starting in 2010, a group of gay men, including founding and organizing and lead storyteller at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson, helped organize a group of 79 investors to purchase Sawmill for $4.25 million, and history was made as Sawmill became America's first nonprofit co-op community. Al helped orchestrate RuPaul coming in 2009 to help raise money for the co-op, and then came again in 2014 to celebrate the Sawmill co-op with RuPaul's only live performance in North America that year. It is believed that this was the last live public concert RuPaul has ever done. Legendary. Yeah. Very legendary.
Thank you, Al.
Have you been to Sawmill? Any of you been to Sawmill?
No.
I have not, but I've only heard amazing and great feedback.
You know, for a long time, Sawmill got this kind of negative reputation. You know, whenever a lot of, especially gay men, gather, it can create a reputational kind of profile. Sawmill has stood the test of time. In 2010, it became a nonprofit co-op, became the first nonprofit, basically queer community where you could live there. You had shares in it. You had a house. Wow. You could have a house there, cabins and tenting. Very diverse. It focuses on the trans community. It has women's weekends where all the guys say, wait, let's withdraw out of the spaces and for a weekend, but yes, but cool. 3 times a year, and to say for women, this is a unique space in all of America for women, 3 times a year. And yes, the joke lands on me. And It's an amazing place. I encourage all of you to go. Halloween, they have a haunted house, and Mardi Gras, they have a Mardi Gras parade. One time we brought in one of the big Gasparilla floats, and the owner of Festive Floats came herself to pull the float, and it had a Ferris wheel and a merry-go-round on the float, and it went through all of Sawmill.
Now,
there's so many
Al, I have
fun
a question.
events.
It's clothing optional?
The entire acreage.
Well, I'll just say this. I'd love to go, but I don't know about taking off my clothes, honey, because I don't want to scare anybody.
It's optional. It's whatever you're comfortable.
But it sounds like it would be a really fun community to visit.
It is a fun weekend. I encourage all of you.
Do you think there's any risk to the community with what's happening in Florida? Is there any way to
absolute zero
on that?
Absolute zero. It sits on 200 acres. It has a private gate, 24 hours a day security. You can't get onto the property, and it's through a 24-hour gate security. So it's interesting because in you doing this story, people can go to Sawmill and you get through the gate and you feel, okay, for the 24, 48, 70, 6 hours that you're there, there's no Ron DeSantis coming. It is completely an embracement of whatever you represent in the LGBTQ community. You're going to be able to represent it at Sawmill, and there's it really is. I'm very happy that Queer News Tonight is doing this story tonight, focusing attention on Sawmill.
Congratulations.
Okay. In April, when the world attacked trans social media queen Dylan Mulvaney over drinking out of a custom can of Bud Light, who would possibly imagine that one of the strongest voices of support could be? By the way, after Kid Rock fired a machine gun at a pile of Bud Light, after all the blustering, he's drinking the beer again, and his restaurant has it back on the menu. Number 24 of 23 is Howard Stern becomes voice of reason in Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light controversy.
Howard Stern usually isn't at the center of hot topic conversations anymore, but the notorious shock jock has inserted himself into America's culture war over LGBTQ plus visibility by challenging Kid Rock and other conservatives to explain why they are so incensed about transgender star Dylan Mulvaney's partnership with Bud Light. During one episode of Sirius XM's The Howard Stern Show, the radio host said he was dumbfounded over the strong backlash aimed at Anheuser-Busch, which provides Bud Light over Mulvaney, a transgender activist and social media star who boasts more than 10.8 million TikTok followers. Stern wondered if he was missing something. He said, quote, "I wish I could call Kid Rock and have him come on the show and just tell me, why are you so upset about this? How is it hurtful?" Rock went viral a few weeks ago by posting a video of himself using a semi-automatic rifle to shoot cases of Bud Light after Mulvaney began appearing in Bud Light ads on April 1st. Country singer Travis Tritt joined the anti-woke chorus by also tweeting that he would no longer support Anheuser-Busch, the company that produces Bud Light, as well as Budweiser and several other beer brands. The pure ridiculousness of this entire story and the tone deafness of these people who are, there was another guy that came out with the non-trans beer using a baseball bat to just annihilate a case of beer. Then you have Kid Rock with the semi-automatic rifle just shooting stuff up, realizing, or maybe they do realize that we have the highest rate of murder and imprisonment and violence, that half the country is really trying to figure out how we deal with this. And they decide to go on, and maybe it's just for attention because they know they'll get a news story because nobody's following Kid Rock anymore. But I think it's the most disgusting thing. And there really is no, I tried to see it as many sides of it as I could possibly see as to why somebody would be so angry enough to be so violent and to post it on social media for something that really, if you don't like the beer, don't drink it. Yeah. And one thing I've always said to conservatives and Republicans is Republicans who are against trans, and you know, the Republican Party principle is get out of my life. Small government, you shouldn't have any dealings with what I'm going through personally, yet it is the Republican right-wing arm that is trying to get into everybody's personal life. It's so anti-Republican that I wish there were more Republicans that would would be calling it out and say, I need you all to be more Republican and get out of these people's lives.
And Dylan, it's Republicans circa 1990s and before, not Republicans circa George Bush and forward, though. I mean,
when the Tea Party came.
Yeah.
And it is really just so, I think tone deaf is a very good word to use, because when you look at one of the biggest problems of the trans community is actually violence and being killed. So to voice your dissatisfaction with that message via violence just to me says, if they were to run into a trans person in an alley and nobody was looking, they would do exactly what they did with the baseball bat. They would do exactly what they did with the gun. When somebody shows you who they are, believe them.
Wow. You know, and what a crazy world that we're in, that Howard Stern is the voice of reason, right? Let's say that. You know, I have had the pleasure to meet Howard Stern on a few occasions. And, you know, he is honestly a quiet LGBTQ plus ally. Okay. He really is. It's not, you know, it's all a show, folks. You know, it's a show. It's a program. He actually had Harry Styles on a couple of weeks ago on his show, right? And we all love the fluidity of Harry Styles, right? Dreamy. Anyway, and so, you know, and so Howard Stern literally said to Harry Styles, some weird shit is going down in this country right now where gay marriage and abortion access is at great risk, and even I'm worried. So for Howard Stern to say that, for Howard Stern to be worried for us, you know shit's bad. Right?
I just laughed when it said that he inserted himself into the story. I'm like, well, probably not very far.
You know, and
hey, he says it himself.
Private part.
And here's the and what he said. Oh, you know, I wish I could call Kid Rock and ask him. Howard Stern, you can. All right, you've got that notoriety. You've got that clout that you can go and say, hey, producers, go call him for me. I want to have a conversation. Do that, film it, and then make that shit go viral. We need your voices right now.
Let's see what Kid Rock says back.
I think also we should give some special love to Dylan. I've been following her every day of womanhood, and she is just a trooper, and she's not ingesting the hate. She's giving out reason and love, and she is a true representation of the trans community.
Classy, wonderful. She is just such a lady, because I don't think that I would be that calm about it. Every single time she does a video back, it's very calm, and she looks beautiful, and it's like so eloquent. And I'm like, girl, you're so freaking classy.
Yeah, earrings down the block.
I was already putting Vaseline on my face. Like, I was just like, For you folks at home, if you don't know what that means, that is how you fight. You put Vaseline on your face, so when somebody tries to, all right, just look it up.
Yes, gay boys don't get it twisted.
I have Vaseline, but never.
Okay, good shot.
Moist. It's moist.
It's been a tough year for drag queens. It's been a tough year for prides. Cancellations and changes to Port St. Lucie, Fort Lauderdale, and Stonewall may have made 2023 the most challenging yet over radical conservatives in Tallahassee. That was never clearer than in February. Number 23 of 23 is Tampa Pride loses more than $100,000 in sponsorships over DeSantis.
For much of this century, gay pride was literally banned in Tampa's Hillsborough County as infamous County Commissioner Rhonda Storms led a vote to adopt a policy in Hillsborough County government to abstain from acknowledging, promoting, or participating in gay pride recognition and events. Little g, little p. That's an exact quote. It passed effectively banning all sanctioned pride events from Hillsborough County. Storms then added an amendment to complete the erasure of the LGBTQ plus community by requiring a supermajority to repeal the ban. It took more than a decade to reverse that hate. The LGBTQ plus community thought it was the worst attack they would ever see. That was until 2023, and along comes Governor Ron DeSantis. In an exclusive interview with me, Tampa Pride's president, Kerry West, tells a chilling tale about the attacks from Tallahassee on Tampa Bay. But he also has lots of news about the success of Tampa Pride's event that is coming up the last weekend in March. Tampa Pride is arguably one of the most successful in Florida, operating on a budget that is in the black and an amount of $470,000. A leading University of South Florida economist estimated the economic impact of 2022 Tampa Pride at nearly $4 million. Tampa Pride is historic Ybor City's largest single economic impact. In an exclusive interview with Tampa Pride's president, Kerry West, he expresses regret of what he is watching from the governor's mansion. For example, he reports Pride has lost 6 major sponsors at a cash value of more than $100,000. Interestingly, they are all national companies outside of the state of Florida. West says, quote, national out-of-state business brands have pulled out of the parade and festival because they are afraid of the politics going on in Florida. They report that they are worried about the Don't Say Gay and the growing issues over drag queens, end quote. West indicates difficulty with alcohol companies because they are particularly sensitive to Governor DeSantis' actions. He indicates his orchestrated attacks on the LGBTQ plus community and allies are creating a chilling effect on their decision-making. He says, quote, the director of one alcohol sponsor said that if Governor DeSantis can take on Disney, he could become president and then he can take on any business, including ours, end quote. West also reports that the governor's office is threatening Pride in other ways. As example, Tampa receives a $30,000 grant from Florida's Department of Cultural Affairs, and when the political arms of state government realized the state was supporting a gay organization, an inquiry was launched and initiated as to why. While Tampa Pride is fully funded through this grant in 2023 and in 2024, West says he is concerned about what is going to happen next. Tampa Pride has received threats and official letters. A sample of one was shared by the Florida's Department of Professional Regulation that was sent to Orlando Philharmonic for their RuPaul Drag Race Christmas show in December. Florida is threatening to suspend or revoke their liquor license. Hate groups continue to send emails about the disruption of Tampa Pride. One hate issue we can confirm at Queer News Tonight. Drag queens cannot and will not be banned from Tampa Pride. Rumors have persisted for weeks that this would be the occurrence stemming from Florida Department of Professional Regulation going after the liquor licenses of Orlando Philharmonic, Broward Center for Performing Arts, Our House here in Miami, and others. In fact, Tampa Pride may be a model for other organizations in Florida. Pride has gone on defense by having the alcohol-connected day and night events at the historic Cuban Club. Those events are now 18-plus aged events. About drag queens at the festival and parade, West said, quote, there is no law against it, and it would be a fascist police state action to prevent our cherished drag community from celebrating Pride in Tampa, end quote. While the hate politics are bad, the news for Tampa Pride is actually very impressive. The festival's 160 booths are in waitlist status now. VIP is sold out, and the parade has the largest number of entries in history at 140 units and sold out on a waitlist now for the 2.5-hour parade. Particularly impressive when you consider these results are more than 1 month prior to the event. Cupcake will headline along with Jordan Frost, and particularly interesting news is Grand Marshal will be the legendary Peppa Mache as she will celebrate her 70th birthday at Tampa Pride. West concludes his conversation with me by saying, quote, the governor has an agenda to create a culture war against the most marginalized in our community. This is an agenda created by Ron DeSantis to become president of the United States. It won't succeed at Tampa Pride, end quote. Well, it's interesting news. The notice that was shared to Kerry West was the copy from the state of DPR's threat to Orlando Philharmonic. Even what happened there, what happened to Broward Center, what has happened to Our House, they're all in threat status. They're in vague, we're kind of warning you and we're going to take away your liquor license, but we haven't taken any action. Why? Because we could because there's a drag queen, and what was the drag queen, and what does it have to do with anything else? So that's the kind of threats that are going on at Tampa. Is there a tangible effect? There absolutely is. Over $100,000 of sponsorship loss from businesses, especially out of the state of Florida, that are concerned about what's going on in Florida. He lays a case out very clearly. But simultaneously with these, and this is particularly valuable. We have Palm Beach coming, we have Miami Beach coming, we have Stonewall in Fort Lauderdale and Wilton Manors coming, and others. This is another to watch closely. So there's value in what Kerry West is saying in Tampa. And Tampa, the entire state of Florida is with you. Don't forget, the entire state of Florida is with you.
We love you, Tampa people. Because me and a couple people from production were there last year for Tampa for Pride, and the parade was remarkable. It was more than 2.5 hours long, okay, and it was wonderful. And I was able to speak to a lot of the locals, and they loved their Pride. They didn't have a Pride for so many years because of Miss Storm, and they're so appreciative of all the organizations that come in and do all this, to the point where they have a waiting list of people that want to get on board. I hope they'll find somebody to cover that $100,000 that they've lost because of DeSantis.
And I hope that more and more national companies realize that those threats, those so-called threats that are sent out, are essentially toothless because they can't move forward. I think the fact that they're sending threats instead of actually enforcing it is saying a lot about the power of that particular rule. Basically, I think the state government's position is that I can't really enforce it, but I can threaten to enforce it. Because if you do enforce it, then there's a legal standing to appeal. And then they're going to have to justify why, you take away someone's liquor license because there's a drag show. And then you have to explain why, quote unquote, drag shows are, quote unquote, sexually explicit. That is something that the DeSantis administration cannot twist their way out of it. It's
funny, and I know you want to jump in, Jamal. I just continue to point out about drag queens. R-rated movies are sexually explicit, and minors can be present for when their parents make that decision. The governor's going to have an impossible task to define why this is different than what we do in every movie theater in the state of Florida. Sorry.
No. And also that fear-based tactic, it really holds no ground in Florida because Florida's biggest economy is tourism. And for Tampa, clearly, this is one of their biggest pulls for tourism. So that also is something that's probably a blindside for corporations that exist outside of Florida. They're afraid, but they don't know that tourism is what attracts everything here and what grows the economy. And clearly, Tampa Pride is the biggest winner here.
I would love to see what other events that they have pull in $4 million of revenue.
Yeah.
Even though I know it's a sad thing that some of the national funders, the national sponsors are pulling out, I wish more organizations and funders would pull out of events that are having issues with the LGBTQ community, and maybe they would see the power of the LGBTQ community and we wouldn't keep having these issues. And I also think, and I know a lot of people don't see it the way I see it, but I still feel that this is an attack on the most marginalized community, the T in the LGBTQ. There are more trans people that are being affected by this because there are so many trans people that are also drag queens.
This is their livelihood.
It's their livelihood. It's the way they survive. And it just seems as if you go back to before Laverne Cox, it seemed like everything was quiet. There was never an issue or a problem with the trans community. They weren't even talked about because it seemed like they were underneath the table and nobody cared anything about them. But now that the trans community seems to be thriving and they're winning awards where they're competing against cisgendered females and things of that nature, it seems like they want to kick that marginalized person and be like, you know what, we see that you're rising up and that you're taking care of yourself, but let's just give you a peg down.
Yep.
Moms for Liberty have had a tough year. The meltdown over Moms for Liberty founder being caught in a lesbian throuple is just the start of their problems. But this December, a breath of fresh air came from kids in school. Number 22 of 23, middle schoolers tell Moms for Liberty, stop bullying LGBTQ+ youth.
Students in the Seattle public schools have clapped back at Moms for Liberty, sending the far-right group handmade cards bearing pro-LGBTQ+ messages like LGBTQ+ rights are human rights. Most of the cards use the colors of the rainbow. According to the spokesperson, sending the cards was an independent activity, not part of the school curriculum, and they were sent last spring. The cards came with a letter from Seattle teacher Ann Christensen saying they were from concerned middle school students. However, Moms for Liberty, which campaigns against LGBTQ+ content in schools, supposedly in the name of parental rights, shared several images of the cards this month on its X feed saying the Seattle public schools are indoctrinating and weaponizing children.
In November, the Republican House was melting down. That's when we learned that a Louisiana congressman was selected. What we don't know then, which we know now, he would become the most anti-LGBTQ+ House Speaker in history, all over religion. 21 of 23, new House Speaker Mike Johnson has religious obsession with gay sex and conversion therapy.
Let's take a breath before we talk about this gentleman. Oh my God, all right. So, have you heard about Mike Johnson? All right, well, you should know about him. He is a new House Speaker, and he kind of doesn't like our community at all. Let's tell you a couple of things about what this gentleman has been up to, okay? So, Mike Johnson was Louisiana's representative, okay? He was voted into Speaker of the House, and the relative unknown had virtually no background review before his GOP election, so he got this great appointment, and no one even heard of the dude beforehand.
Go figure.
Go figure, right? Okay, I got more to tell you though, Cal, all right? Okay? So I'm here to tell you a little bit of the history, since they just appointed him and didn't even tell anybody what he's been up to, all right? So, in early 2000, he appeared in a documentary advocating and embracing gay conversion therapy. Like saying,
and that's sink in.
Like that's a good thing. Like, yay, I'm pro. Like, let's all go to Disney. Yeah, let's all get conversion therapy. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that like he's into. Okay, so then he worked for the Alliance Defending Freedom, that Southern Poverty Law Center says is a hate group, and I think they're a hate group too.
No, they are a hate group.
For real. I mean, yeah, anything that stands for that, it's not anybody that's full of love, for sure. ADF became the most powerful anti-LGBTQ advisory group in DC during Trump and the top advisors for the GOP on anti-LGBTQ policy. Of course they became the most powerful. Of course they did, right? He was a major supporter to not certify the Biden election. Oh, of course. Yes, it was rigged. He was right there with everybody saying that it was rigged, okay? In 2005, I got more, Cal.
There's more, but wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more. Okay, so in 2005, he suggested LGBTQ people are more likely to participate in pedophilia. Like, this is kind of like the hate speech that people listen to. When someone like this says it out loud and proud. Oh yeah, LGBT.
It's the rhetoric.
It's the rhetoric.
Yeah.
It's the rhetoric that kills people in our community, right? And this is the stuff that he's been doing back almost 20 years, okay? Then he advocated for the recriminalization of sexual acts between consenting LGBTQ adults in 2008. Okay, well, there was a time where two same-gender loving men, right, would be, if they were caught maybe having some kind of, je ne sais quoi, right? Well, that's the wrong language. We're in Greek, but I don't know Greek yet. Give me some time, all right? That they could be arrested for that, and he wants to bring that kind of stuff up, right? In 2009, he wrote in an editorial that the homosexual agenda will destroy Christianity. Yeah. In that same editorial, as reported by CNN, he said homosexuality is inherently unnatural and dangerous lifestyle that would lead to legalized pedophilia and destroy the entire democratic system. Are we really that powerful?
It seems like it.
Right?
Yeah, for such a marginalized community, they give us a lot of power.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, coño. He compared his natural sex to gay by saying your race, creed, and sex are what you are, while homosexuality and cross-dressing are things you do. Okay? Speaker Johnson is now third in line to being president and is likely the most anti-LGBTQ Speaker of the House in modern history. What do you think about Speaker Johnson?
You know, it's crazy, and it is true, because this guy came from nowhere. There are most people on the House floor that had never heard of him before. This is the first time they've ever heard of his name, and now they're actually learning about who he is, and there's stuff that's coming out about his history and his past, you know, what he's for, what he's against. But the thing is with the GOP is that they just want someone in that seat that's of their party.
Of course.
Who's just gonna, you know, abide by whatever their party lines are.
So like the puppet.
Yeah, ironically enough, like we are in ancient Greece. Like we are in the capital of democracy. This is where democracy started.
Wow.
You know,
that's a big statement.
You know, which is crazy. You know, so this is where it all started. You know, and homosexuality, you know, was a thing there. You know, something that was practiced by aristocrats. You know, it wasn't something
since the beginning of time.
Since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just ironic that this is where we are now in 2023 and on the verge of another U.S. presidential election, and this guy is third in line to be the president of the United States.
And that's scary. And that's scary. He's third in line. I mean, that is just nuts. And of course, he's a white man, you know, and I mean, it's, again, what scares me the most is what you touched on was the fact that we never heard about this guy. And all of a sudden, he's got one of the most important seats, if not, you know, the third most important seat in the land.
And I love when the GOP is like, oh, you know, these Democrats don't have experience, so they don't have this. You know, they gave Kamala Harris such a hard time, you know, when she was running for president, and even now as vice president, you know, that, oh, we don't have experience. And then all of a sudden someone comes up from Louisiana, and now they're qualified to be Speaker of the House in third line to be president of the United States.
Well, and I will say that Speaker Johnson definitely has experience. Experience
Oh,
in
no,
hate.
absolutely.
Experience in hate. That's what he has.
Forget Georgia. Greater Fort Lauderdale is known for its stunning beaches, but it's away from the seashore and on the waterways that the region truly reveals itself as a waterfront paradise. In a region so rich with waterway attractions, you can't lose no matter how you cruise. To see the center of Greater Fort Lauderdale from an entirely new perspective, including the mind-blowing mansions and mega yachts of Millionaires Row, hop on the water taxi. Visit the many dockside dining options or grab a seat for the annual Winterfest Boat Parade. Visit Lauderdale, everyone under the sun.
That's today's headlines for the only daily LGBTQ+ evening news show in the world. At the end of the year, we express gratitude. At Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network, we express that gratitude. We are the only news and talk streaming television network on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV. More than 500,000 subscribers watch us there and watch us on their home televisions. On YouTube, we've had more than 10 million views this year. There's nothing like it in our LGBTQ+ world, and we thank you. Enjoy your holidays, and we turn our attention to 2024 and all the stories about you, our LGBTQ+ community, that we're going to bring to the world. Good night.